We are live. Okay, let me look for.
Hey,
Hi. Um, so we can give it a few minutes
yes.
for people to join, and then we can get that. Look at you. You look nice.
I know we don't go anywhere, so we have to take every opportunity to relax. Like, yeah. Put on
Nice.
lipstick, you can't put on lipstick
I
behind the
was
mask.
gonna say, I see you. You made the lips all
So
glam,
I'm
and I
excited
love
about,
the bow on the head is a nice touch.
and I didn't even plan that, but it just worked out really well for me. So I'm very thankful today.
Oh
I'm
my
just,
goodness. Hi, Tiny. Thanks for joining us. That's so funny. I love that. That's a perfect accident when you do an accident and it actually
yeah,
plays out.
I'm not complaining
Pretty.
at all. I mean, if I intentionally try to recreate it, look, it's probably not gonna happen. But
Mhm.
that's nature life.
That's so funny.
100%.
Uh, no, but you look really nice. Really, really
Thank
nice. I
you, and you
mean,
too. And of course, I'm loving the plan, I'm loving the curls, everything just on fleek.
oh, thank you. Thank you. This is our vision of a night on the town.
Correct. No, correct. It's really sad though, but
Hi,
you know,
Sandy. Yeah, this is how we glam up and we go out,
exactly.
not leaving our rooms at
Trust,
all.
trust me, I know.
Uh,
I know.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
do
We're
get
gonna
to
be
enjoy the zoom effect because like the top is pretty, but then the bottoms are like, home. So it's like party on top, home at the bottom,
right home below.
Yeah. So that's always
Most people are rocking that
really having to
midway.
dress up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hi, Auntie Tessa.
Yeah.
Uh, you know what? Like, we're gonna just wait a little bit, and give people a few minutes to kind of log in with us, and then we're gonna get started on our just relaxed evening.
Correct.
Have some good conversation. Feel free to join in at any time. But yeah, you see,
When you said you were gonna drink, why you keep calling it Grenadian Vitamalt? It's normal Vitamalt.
no, it's Grenadian Vitamalt because even though it's the same brand, it was actually
Uh-huh.
made in Grenada, and there's a slight difference to the way they make it. So it does have a different taste. But yeah, it's the same brand.
Okay, okay. Well, look, I learned something today. Cool,
You
cool
learn
beans.
something. Even
Cool.
their Coke is different in terms of, I think my friend, he works with
Why?
them, and I think he said the amount of, like, you know fritziness, I don't know what it like the gas, the amount of gas they
Yeah,
put in it, like either they like they're flatter than Trini's or something like that, so they alter it just slightly for the
but
culture,
that's not cool.
culture.
What did you this?
Yeah, that's Pepsi to us when it's
Yeah,
flat.
what kind of
Exactly.
reflecting is that?
Well, to us,
But
right? But no, they really do have the best malt, the best.
great, great, great.
I'll fight them for the KFC. Like, they believe they have the best KFC, and if there are any Grenadians that join this live, they'll probably be upset at me. Um, but training KFC
Yeah,
takes it.
no. Go pizza. Go pizza.
Yeah,
We have the
yeah, yeah.
flavor, we have the spices, we have everything.
Exactly, exactly. And Trini, we are Callaloo in ourselves, so all the
Correct.
different, it tastes different than the spices that you would get over there. You know what I mean? It's
Correct.
good. They have good. Like, I would eat their KFC
Mm,
over, like, American.
yeah.
but,
No, for real, for real.
but it's not
But I guess
Trinidadian.
every place has their little thing. Because I remember in Jamaica they had barbecue KFC, and I'm like, and I
I'm not
tried
doing
it,
that. No, I'm not doing
but
that.
it was sorry if there are any Jamaicans here. No,
I'm not doing it. No, that's a
yeah,
no for me. I'm not even gonna try. Guys, we're just waiting for more people to join the live, and then we'll get started. We're gonna have a fun conversation. I'm gonna hand it over to Tia, and she's gonna drive this vehicle today. But yeah, so we're just waiting a little bit. At what time do you think you wanna start? People could always watch back the live, so even if they don't
Correct.
join us live, we can still just send it out. So you let me know.
Well, it's
Somebody
7:06
just said
according to my
that's not
time,
bad.
so
The
7
zinger
can work.
anyway. I'm laughing at this comment. They were
No,
like, it's not that bad. The zinger anyway. That's funny. What are you talking about though? Who's zinger? The Jamaican?
Jamaica, yeah, because she's in Jamaica. Yes.
Okay. Let me just get my mold.
You go, girl.
I got
Very
my
fun.
mold here and preparing. Okay, we got some people coming in. Oh, they have a barbecue zinger. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah, I will actually no. I think we've had that down here as well, the barbecue zinger, and it actually was not that bad. It was like
Did
a
we?
promotional, yeah, for a short period of time, a few years back. I didn't see it come back.
I wonder why.
But yeah, I didn't see it come back, but it was here at one point.
That's probably for the best. It's probably for the best.
Yeah, but we love our chicken, so we'll eat
Correct.
anything. Okay, so we have 10 people on the live right now. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for coming in and joining us. T, what time did you say you wanted to get started? Giving them what? 10
3
past?
minutes, we can start in past
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, I
We have
think
to
so.
small 15 minutes again. Lord,
Hey.
it's like my work nightmare.
We both love food, so we just talk about
We
food.
what?
And we're good. We both love food, so we just talk about food and we're good.
Food is like my enemy right now, to the gut. But
Never will
to
be
the
my
gut
enemy.
and to the pocket.
Okay, I'll agree on the pocket. Yeah. How are you guys going through with COVID? All of the people in the comments, how have you guys been coping? I would love to see you guys, tell us, what have you been doing to cope with COVID over the past, wow, it's almost 2 years. That's insane. Absolutely insane. That it's been so long. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys how you've been coping during this time. In some places, they're opening back up. In some places, they're closing back down after opening up. So tell us, how have you been coping? I hope families are safe and everybody's healthy. Yep, so we have 1 more minute and then we're gonna get started.
All of a sudden, I'm so warm. It's ridiculous. I'm trying to see how long I can function without my glasses because then I get the ring lights on the frame. But then,
Okay.
when I start to read a little something,
You notice I'm not wearing mine, right? If I'm not wearing mine, it's because I'm wearing contacts because
right.
my eyes are that bad that I need some
know.
sort of vision as soon as I wake up. Immediately.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah, the ring light with the glasses, it really sucks.
Yeah, it's not a feeling. So
No.
we'll see how it goes.
All right. I think we can get rolling. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Or you know what? I don't know what time you're watching this. So just a pleasant good day. Thank you for joining us. This is The Couch is Yours. And we are going to have some stimulating conversation. My name is Gabrielle Valley. That's Atiya Douglas. She's going to go into the deep dive of the introductions. But I just wanted to say a warm welcome to all of you that are viewing right now. Atiya, the couch is yours.
All right. Great. Wow. Thank you very much. As we were saying last night, I really wish we had a couch.
Yeah.
But, we make do what we have. So I just want to continue and, your start and just say welcome to everyone that is here with us this evening or this morning or tonight or whatever. Um, and I guess we want to really just have like a really um, really casual conversation,
Yeah.
really not so, maybe in depth, but really get to the nitty gritty of things. I might share some things about myself and my own experiences in therapy. Obviously, Gabrielle has a wealth of experience and knowledge that she's going to be sharing about this evening. So I'm just going to dive into a quick introduction about her before we get into the meat of the thing, right? And you're watching Gabrielle here, and do what she's like, because this girl is
The baby
amazing.
face.
Let me just say a big of the BATCE alumni massive. We
Both
here.
of us
Like,
representing.
from BATC, my girl just she went hard. She went out of the country. She did her thing, and now we're here. So Darrell, of course, is a certified counselor, a United States National certified counselor. She's a clinical traumatologist, as I said, though what she's like. She has an MSc in counseling, dual specialization in clinical mental health counseling and marriage, couple, and family therapy. Has a lot, right?
Yeah,
But we in that.
it was a lot.
She's trained in trauma incident reduction, trained in telehealth therapy. Now, you gotta tell me what's that telehealth therapy thing when we come back, right?
Right.
But she's a member of the following associations: the American Counseling Association, the Florida Counseling Association, the Chi Sigma Lota Counseling Association, all in the United States, of course, right? Her experience, as I said, to watch the slides, she has a wealth of experience in just her short years
Yeah.
of service. She has worked at the Care Center Clinic in Florida, the Unified Counseling, Consulting and Mediation LLC in Florida as well. She's been a presenter at the Florida Counseling Association, which was in 2019, the DNA of Trauma. And she also worked at the Trauma Resolution Center in Florida, right? So why are we here this evening? We are here because in addition to all of those things, Ms. Gabrielle has decided to publish. You've just
The
seen it.
book.
To
The
publish, right?
book.
To publish. And I'm so excited. I think I was in the first batch to get like a hard copy.
You
I know
got the first batch,
excited.
very first.
Awesome, right? So my girl has published a book. And we're gonna be talking about the book this evening, but we're also gonna be talking about Gabrielle's journey in becoming a counselor. What was the inspiration? What was it like? And because that's a lot of years of studying as well. And we're also just going to dive in a little bit about the therapeutic process. And we're going to be using the book to reference some of these things that, people can expect in therapy. Because we know that our generation in particular has been very much into the mental health movement.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're also the generation that, we suffering a little bit, so these mental health services are not always in our reach. And we find many ways to cope, but we really want to talk about like, what is the therapeutic process? What someone can expect if they're considering entering the therapeutic process. And, just what you need to come with, what you need to
Mm-hmm.
really have to make that therapeutic relationship
Right.
a success and have it work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, we're just gonna dive right into it. So first of all, Daryl, just give us a bit of a background about, why counseling, why trauma? Give us the backstory.
Okay, so long story. No, I'm gonna show you. I do have the baby face, so you're right. I get asked that a lot, like, how old are you? You're my therapist, really? But then we break the ice and they're sold. But why did I get into therapy? From a very young age, probably around 6, I was always that friend that everybody went to for some sort of help or resolution. I didn't really know what therapy was called or what a psychologist was.
Right.
And so I had to go through different stages as I got older to recognize exactly what it was that I was doing. So when I found out about psychology, I fell in love with it. And it was just really not only understanding the mind, but really understanding how people connect. how people form relationships, how do families work, right? And that was what really interested me because I saw so many different household dynamics, but I couldn't really understand it. Also, wanting to understand my own household dynamics was also a driving force. So it just made a love in me for really trying to understand others as well as trying to understand myself. And so I did my undergrad in St. George's University. That's how I got to Grenada. Hence, shout out to my Grenadian friends. I saw Terry jumped in the live. Terry gave me sent me for my birthday this Grenadian version of Vitamalt.
All right.
Um,
All right.
so I went to Grenada and I did my undergrad in Grenada. Fell in love not only with psychology but also the people and the culture of Grenada. And then I decided, you know what, I really want to specialize in family therapy because the family is really the foundation for everything in humanity, right? Everything. That's our social construct. But over the past few years, the past generations, you know, we've seen the family kind of become deconstructed and we've become very westernized, which is very individualistic. But even with an individualistic mindset, the foundation is still the family. So I had a real love for just wanting to understand how each family works. And every family in itself is its own culture. And I was able to learn that and see that. And then as I went on to do my master's in Barry University in Miami, that's where I was introduced to the trauma side of it. Because what became interesting to me was not just the family, but how did the family actually pass on certain patterns, certain trends? And so that's where the trauma came in, where I really specialized in transgenerational trauma. So I went on to get my clinical traumatologist certification because I just really wanted to help people navigate their own family history and make a difference in their future generations.
Right. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, when you said you fell in love with psychology, I was like, girl, I did like two psychology courses in you and I was over it. So I mean, kudos to you for sure. And I really love, I mean, we're gonna address it a little bit later, but you know, how you built that foundation about the family, of course, because you know, this is where we have the primary socialization happening until we go
Yeah,
out into the world. And then it's kind of like understanding how the family really impacts us. We talk about, you know, we use the example of slavery and the trauma of
yeah,
slavery, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing with family, right?
yeah.
So we're gonna jump into like what that generational trauma and stuff is, but then you know, just kind of walk us through. All right, so you're a traumatologist, therapy. You know, like how do you kind of well, what is first of all, what's the therapeutic process, and how does it differ from you, I guess in terms of dealing with trauma cases, family, marriage, that type of thing. Is there a difference in that approach to like let's just say general, I don't know if it's general therapy, but
Right.
let's just say general therapy. So kind of just walk us through like what does that entail? What does that yeah.
So, being a traumatologist really means that you are working with a client using trauma informed techniques. And
Right.
so, someone who isn't trained in trauma, they can address certain things, but it's looking at something from a different perspective. So, there are different types of counselors, different types of psychologists, different types of uh, therapists, right? So different mental health professionals. But all of us, depending on the way we were trained, would have a different perspective on how we see the client. So let's use this example. A psychologist might say, oh, I have a patient. But if you recognize, I'm using the word client, not patient, because I'm
Right.
coming from the standpoint of wellness, that this person has within them the strength and the resources to get to whatever resolution that they need to. I may have to remind them of those, or they may have to learn some new skills, but they have that wellness. Psychology takes the standpoint of more scientific, right? So they look at it almost like medicine, that there is an illness that needs to be cured. So it's two different perspectives, two different views. So when you talk about trauma, I am really always looking for some sort of trauma. And to be honest, at first, if you meet a traumatologist or someone who's, trauma trained, they'll tell you they see trauma in everything, right?
Mhm.
And it's true because trauma is subjective. And so what traumatizes me may not traumatize you, and vice versa.
Right.
But the very incident of birth is traumatic. If you really think of a baby being born, having to leave the safe cocoon that they were in, getting fed and not being hurt, right?
Yeah.
Calm, happy, right? Living their best life, and then coming into this world, that process in itself is traumatic. And so we have to kind of go through and peel back the layers of what a person has experienced and look for different traumatic incidences that may
Mhm.
have impacted their current life, and look at how it may impact them in the future. So that is what's kind of different versus someone who is not trained in trauma. They may not necessarily look for trauma. If you go to them, they may deal with anxiety, right? So if you're coming in saying, well, I experience a lot of anxiety, they may just focus on, okay, relieving the anxiety. If you come to me to work on anxiety, I want to know exactly where did that anxiety come from? Did you
Right.
experience something that is causing this anxiety? If you didn't experience something, do you know of a parent that may have experienced something that has been translated to you that you're experiencing, that you've taken on, right? So trauma informed, that's the difference that I would describe.
That goes really deep, that last part that you mentioned, that even if the person themselves can't account for the trauma, it could be
Yeah.
something outside of them. I think that's really interesting. Okay, so let's jump in, right? Uh, what are some of the reasons in your line of work, your experience, what are some of the reasons, what are some of the issues that people have come and presented to you in the counseling sessions as your clients?
Wow. I mean, they range from things
Top
I don't
five,
really
top
like.
five,
What do you say?
top
Top five?
five.
Okay, well, definitely anxiety is a huge one. Even before COVID, many people are battling anxiety. A lot of them don't really understand why. I see a lot of clients that have experienced depression. I see a lot of clients that, have a lot of family issues. So again, dealing with that transgenerational family issues and kind of working on making healthier familial patterns for the future. I've also seen different kinds of trauma in terms of people who may have encountered sexual abuse, who may have been in a car accident, right? Gotten, limbs burnt off, those kinds of things, and they're kind of recovering their identity. So I see various types of clients, but again, through a trauma lens.
Right. Okay, okay, understood.
Mhm.
So I mentioned before that, our generation is battling a lot. We truly seem to be going through the Great Depression. We have COVID now as the most recent thing, but we're struggling with finances, the economy. There's so many social changes happening, as you mentioned, the family structures are changing. So we seem to have a lot of mental health issues, crisis, trauma, if you may. But yet still, um, though we are breaking the taboo kind of mold of mental health and entering therapy, a lot of people still shy away from entering that formal, official therapeutic process.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, to be honest, I think that a lot of people are, to be honest, just afraid of what they would find, right? And so it's easier to just be on the grind and kind of distract yourself from whatever you're experiencing rather than actually face this bear or whatever
Right.
your imagination has kind of made. So I think it's really just, and you're right. I think millennials probably have had a lot or the most crammed into a generation events, global scale events, than probably any other generational era. Um, And so, yes, so, even though we're more open minded and more liberal and all of those stuff, it still takes a level of vulnerability to go to
Yeah.
therapy, to seek therapy, and to stick with it. So it takes vulnerability to even engage, but it also takes a level of commitment that I'm not sure if people are ready for, a lot of people, when they start, because it does take a level of commitment of wanting to become better, of wanting to change patterns that you've been doing probably your whole life. And so that takes a level of commitment that I want to become a better version of myself. And so, am I going to put in that work to become that? Or am I just going to say I want to become better, but not actually do something about it? So, like I
Yeah,
said, it takes that vulnerability, but it also takes that commitment.
I agree. Yeah. Just kind of like thinking about my own journey to therapy. I think that
Hmm.
that point about just kind of grinding and distracting yourself, that was me for like years. Like I knew there was things that was wrong, but it's like I'm not ready to dive into this yet. I don't, I just don't want to deal with all these things because life is happening and I feel like I might have to put that on pause. So for years, I would have just kind of ignored, dive into work, dive into this activity, and you're just not thinking about it until like you really hit that wall where it's like, no, you cannot ignore this any longer. And you're right, like it does take a level of vulnerability. And I remember going into therapy and kind of like skirting my way around what I would tell my therapist,
Please, let me
because it's
run
like
around the
I don't
bush.
want to be judged, but this is my therapist. And like in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, this girl is probably go and tell her family and her friends like some real stories over some bears and be like, this girl's a psycho or something. But like it really takes some vulnerability to just be totally honest because that's the only way that you're really gonna uncover the truths, and get to a better place. So definitely vulnerability and that commitment. I agree, right? So we know about therapy. We know about your journey. This book. Let's get into the reason that we're here, right?
Book.
What was
Yes.
the motivation? Insights from the Other Side of the Couch is the name of the book, y'all. It's available on Amazon. Shameless plug here. It's available on Amazon right now. She's working on getting the hard copies into the country.
Mhm.
But just tell us about the inspiration behind the book.
Um, One, I want to say thank you for, sharing your experience with therapy because I think it's always important for other young people to hear that it's fine to go to therapy. We still have
Yeah,
this notion that you have to be crazy to go to therapy. And I heard a fellow psychotherapist say to their client, they said, the fact that you're in therapy is the proof that you're not crazy. Because a real crazy person would never seek therapy. And that's the
correct.
truth. Most times it's because what you're experiencing and maybe the people around you, they may be crazy. But you trying to work on yourself, noticing that something is wrong, speaks to your sanity. So kudos for you, for embarking on that journey for yourself and doing the hard work. But you're right, a lot of you kind of try and run away, right? Even in therapy, you try to avoid the big issues, but
Mhm.
we being therapists are there to really just sit with you through that. Sometimes we allow it. We let you run until you're tired, and then we're like, okay, you ready to talk now? Let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
dive in now, right? Um, but yeah, definitely, I think it's amazing that you shared that your experience and going, and I hope it's beneficial to you. When it comes to the book, so this book is really for people who are hesitant about starting the therapy journey. It's for people who are in the therapeutic journey. It's for everybody, to be
yeah,
quite honest, because I think that most people would benefit from this book in some shape or form. Many of my friends, when I told them I wrote a book, they were like, is it long? I don't like to read. Right? And I was like, it's the perfect book for you too, because
yeah,
it's not like a novel where it's back and front and full of words. No, it's literally short blurbs, short insights of things that I would have gained through my work with clients. So
Right.
based off of my work with different clients, various clients, I have heard different insights that either they've come to or have come to. And I thought, how do I get these insights, these gems from therapy to the masses? That was really
Mhm.
the inspiration. How do I share these gems with others so that they can then not only see how beneficial therapy can be, but also they can also reflect on some of these insights for themselves and
Yeah.
maybe come with their own revelations, come up to their own, epiphanies on their experiences, recognizing that they're not alone. So this book really is a homage to my clients because I actually credit them in the acknowledgments, because definitely working with them taught me so much, and I'm humbled that they would even allow me to go on their journey with them. And so it's really, like I said, a compilation of some of that what you would learn in therapy. So if and for most people, people have thought about going to therapy, but they've never taken the leap. They've never,
Yeah.
dived and actually done it. If you are just questioning, wondering, should I do therapy? Is it for me? I'd say try and get the book because definitely it would show you the benefit of what that experience could look like.
Yeah, I totally agree. And she's not kidding when she says the book is not a novel. Some of the pages is literally just like two lines on a page. But what I really loved is that you're correct. It really does give you something to think about. So all of the topics, and we'll get into how the book is kind of organized in a bit, right? But each page is something for you to read and reflect upon. If you're into journaling, I think for me, like that was great. To think about it and journal, it might, yeah, you're able to read it out in like a matter of a couple hours, if so much. But when you actually sit down and start to really reflect upon each
Mhm.
page and each passage or whatever, it's gonna take you maybe a span of a couple weeks or months or something to kind of go through it if you really want to benefit from it, right? So we touched, of course, on what trauma is. We touched on generational trauma because the book addresses these things. But there's also a concept of the inner child, and we have a lot of concepts flying around these days. Self-care,
Oh,
be good, be
oh
gentle
boy.
with yourself, and
Yeah.
but inner child is one of those things that has been really coming up a lot. Take care of your inner child, talk to
Mhm.
your inner child. Kind of just explain the concept of inner child to us.
Okay, so first I want to address the fact that, like you said, there are a lot of different things floating around, right? A lot of concepts. And you know what? There's truth to everything. Um, so self-care, there's some serious truth to that. What was the other one that you listed?
There's a phrase that people say, be gentle with
Be
yourself. All those
gentle with
things.
yourself, right?
Yeah,
All of these things are true and necessary, but I think that, based off of Instagram and these different platforms, maybe they do get a bit superficial, right?
yeah,
People do start to not really understand the depth of what it's really asking you to do. And
yeah.
when you truly understand the depth, it's actually quite difficult. So that's one thing I wanted to address in terms of some of these new things that are flying around, right? Self care, be gentle with yourself, and also now, so inner child. So, coming from again a trauma perspective, when you encounter a trauma, what happens if that trauma is not resolved is most times it's almost like your brain stops at that event. So, you're
Mm,
growing up. So, let's say you had a childhood trauma, and you encountered something, but you never addressed it and you continue growing up, let's say you're in your 20s now, if that trauma was not necessarily addressed, you may still, in some respects, behave in ways of what happened at that age. So if it happened when you were 9, you may still be having certain behaviors like a 9-year old. So a 9-year old, if you think of a 9-year old, they're somewhat self-absorbed, right? They haven't really begun to recognize there's a world around them and that they impact people. So you may be a 26-year-old, a 29-year-old, and you're still acting in that way that everything revolves around me, right? Everything, I can't really fully identify with this person's emotions. I can't really empathize, right? Because again, your mindset is still stuck at the age of that trauma. Now, when a trauma is resolved, then you're able to kind of mature through it, grow through it, right? But if you are still stuck there, so that's how I think of the inner child, right? And kind of
Yeah.
healing the inner child. It's going back to that age, dealing with 9-year-old you that hasn't been dealt with, right? And healing that person. Now, that person is still you, right? It's not a different person, but people kind of use that inner child phrase to kind of describe and kind of help you kind of differentiate the client kind of differentiate, okay, what exactly is happening, right?
Yeah.
So identify exactly what happened at that age, what happened to that child, how would you want someone to address you back then, and can you address yourself like that now, presently? So it's kind of a merging of the two identities, that 9-year-old and the 29-year-old who is now grown up, and merging them to recognize that we're one and we can heal from what happened when we were 9. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think um, that's one of these things that many people may have challenges really kind of sitting with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I always say, like, a lot of, I'm not sure if anything traumatic happened, but for
Yeah.
me, like, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. And it's only through, like, therapy and just kind
Mm-hmm.
of, like, talking. Like, for the first few months of therapy, I'm like, well, why am I the only person talking inside of here? And it was just because, like, the more I talked, the more things came to me. And
It's
then we were able
real.
to kind of, like, address some of those things, see how they kind of affect the way that I am as an adult now. So I think, even that, just wanting to go back to that place and
Mm-hmm.
start to uncover what has happened back then is really tough for
That's the
some
scary
people.
part, right? Remember, you
Yeah,
asked me earlier, why do people avoid therapy? It's because they don't want to go back there. They don't want to
yeah,
do that work, but they fail to recognize for you to fully be whole, a whole person in this present place, right? And I'm seeing someone say, yes, we block out so much. And the thing is, by doing that, that's a way of protecting yourself, right? So your brain sometimes, when you are in a fight flight situation, your brain, logical brain, prefrontal lobe shuts down. It's like, okay, we have to just focus on fight or flight, freeze, that's another one. The fourth one
yeah.
is befriend, which is one people don't really talk about, but that's the most dangerous one, to be honest. And so your brain and your body is just in survival mode in that
Mm,
time. And so it's not really focusing on collecting memory and collecting data. And so when you experience something traumatic, when you come out of it, a lot of times people experience a lot of memory loss because the part of the brain that was is a part of memory, that prefrontal lobe, has been shut down. So you
mm,
don't remember, but it's there. It's in your subconscious. But it's only through doing something like trauma therapy, right, or even normal therapy, that we literally uncover some of those memories and kind of resolve what happened. A lot of people do not really recognize that they have been traumatized, right? We think of trauma always as like this huge thing. Oh my God, I got into this plane crash. Oh my God, aha. Like
yeah.
it could be as small as a divorce. That's
The
small.
girl said as small as a divorce, and I'm like, what?
Yes, yes. So a child in a household that was
Right.
once whole and then that household is now split, for that child, and even for the individuals who are in the divorce, that is traumatic. That in
Yeah.
itself is traumatic. Remember, we said the family is your foundation. And so you're
Foundation. Yeah.
seeing your foundation literally split apart. And so, what kind of message is that sending to a child seeing that happen? I'm not safe. Maybe I'm not the priority, right? I'm not good enough, right? There's so many messages that get sent. So, trauma isn't only big accident, the rape, all of those are traumas as well, but it could also be things like a divorce, And so it's really about how does life impact the individual. And that's why I'll remind everyone that trauma is subjective. Only you would know how something affected you. In one household, every single individual is different, right? We experience our families different. I'm sure people who have siblings can kind of attest to that, right? Where one of the siblings is like mom's favorite, the next sibling is like dad's favorite, and like everybody has a different relationship with everyone else. And so
Yeah.
growing up, you look back and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't my experience, but they liked you more. Oh, but I was the bad child, right? I was, oh, but no, but our parents were nice to you, maybe, right? So we
Yeah.
all have a different experience of our family,
Mm-hmm.
a different experience with
Correct.
our fathers, a different experience with our mothers, right? It doesn't matter. And so it's the same with trauma. We all have different experiences. And so what would traumatize me may not traumatize you. And again, vice versa.
Yeah. Thank you. There was a concept that you mentioned. I just want to go back so you can elaborate on that first. I think it was in responses to trauma. The fourth concept, I think you said it was friend or
I
befriend.
thought I got away with that.
No, it didn't, because we need to know what it is, you know?
Okay, so when it comes to trauma responses, I always use this example because I heard it once and I thought there's no better way to depict this other than this way. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are thinking about going camping, right? And you and your friends, you guys go out into the woods and you set up camp, you expect for there to be creatures out in the woods, right? And so if you're in the States, you expect that there may be a bear. If you're in the Caribbean, you expect that there may be, I don't know, some wild hog or something, a goatee or something, right? You expect something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you see the bear, and what's your reaction? Again, that's the fight, flight, right? You were like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So most people tend to fight. So let's kill it. Let's try and kill the bear. Let's try and kill the whatever it is. Other people may freeze, right? They just shell shock and they are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some people may, okay, so it's fight, it's flight. So some people may run away completely.
Right.
So
Mhm.
while one person is trying to kill it, the other one is like, deuces, I'm gone. You can fight that if you want.
You are the
Um,
distraction.
you're the distraction. I'm out of here. If you're this color, you're most likely out of here. Um,
Yes.
and so fight, flight, freeze. We talked about freeze, and the last one,
Right.
befriend. So what does befriend mean? Befriend
Mm-hmm.
means if I treat you well, maybe I'll be safe, right? So this person may try to, now with the bear example, is kind of weird, right? To imagine it, but this person may try to, okay, we have some things, some food in our bags. Let's try and give the bear the food, and so that
Yeah.
they may think, okay, we're safe and we're good. The bear may eat the food and go away, right? That's a befriend. Now, how do you translate that into the real world, right? So you've come back from the camping trip, right? Um, and trauma is you're going to sleep and you're still seeing this bear. You are no longer in the woods. You're at home. You're safe, but you're still reliving this incident with this bear. That is trauma, right? And a lot of people relive a lot of stuff. There's a lot of overthinking, a lot of rumination on certain events of their lives, certain conversations, right? And that is what we call trauma. So the fourth one, which is very common but not really talked about, is let's talk about domestic violence. If
Mm-hmm.
we use the example of that bear, right? Domestic violence, we're talking about, gender-based crimes. A lot of people a lot of people who are being abused in these situations, it takes them sometimes 7 tries before they escape, right? And honestly, they're most at risk for death when trying to escape,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people don't really understand, why are you staying in this kind of situation, right? But what happens is, literally, there's a part of the brain, a hormone, right, called oxytocin, that's being released in the mind, that is a bonding agent.
Mm.
And so when a mother is giving birth, if there are any moms on the live, they will know that pain is crazy. I've never given birth, so I don't know, but I've heard, right? That pain is crazy. But as soon as that baby is born, what happens? They forget all about the pain. They're so in love with their baby, right?
Yeah.
Oxytocin has been released in their mind and it bonds them. The same chemical happens in times of
Mm.
trauma when a person, right, is being abused. And again, they're trying to bond with this person and they forget how they've been abused. And so that's literally the same chemical and it's dangerous. The brain is releasing it to protect ourselves. But sometimes the brain can sometimes do things and we're trying to protect ourselves. But when it does it for too long, we're actually hurting ourselves. And so that is the befriend, right? Where they're like, okay, I'm going to stay with this person because they do love me and I want to stay. And they're being sincere when they say these things because, again, this chemical is being released to connect them. And so there we have what we call a trauma bond.
Mm.
Right?
And you
Where
wanted to skip.
literally,
Okay.
what did you say?
Okay. You wanted to skip over this. No.
But yeah, literally, that is how a trauma bond is formed, where
Mm-hmm.
we are bonded over trauma. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean we have encountered a trauma together. It could
Yeah.
literally also mean I've encountered a trauma and you think that you could save me from that trauma, right? So that kind of superhero complex. But everything is all about the trauma. And so that is also a trauma bond, that we're bonding over trauma. So that is where a trauma bond comes in. And it's very dangerous because it's hypnotic. Now, with a mother and a baby, that's beautiful. That's nature, right? But with someone who is a victim and an abuser, that's bad. That's not healthy. With someone who's in a negative or toxic relationship, that's unhealthy. That
Yeah.
bond is not healthy. So it's knowing and kind of keeping the brain in check on when this bonding is not healthy for us and when it's a trauma bond and when it's a natural connection.
Right. And that, of course, is not always easy to identify. Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right. So, of course, you touch on these things in the book.
Mm-hmm.
The book is actually divided into four sections, guys. And I'm assuming, and Gabriel can elaborate, that
Mm-hmm.
these are these things that people really present. These are the main themes of people's lives. And it's transgenerational trauma, it's healing, it's relationship, and there's a section called Selfull. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually really love that, like Selfull. So just
Yeah.
kind of tell us about those four themes that you chose to present in this book.
So the idea for the themes came about because I was thinking about what is my therapeutic process with my clients. Remember, I
Mm-hmm.
said that this book really is, I wanted to give people the experience of what it's like to have therapy. Well, I kind of guess therapy with me, right? Because every
Yeah.
therapist is different.
Yeah.
But this is my process. So we usually start with the transgenerational trauma because I believe that you cannot move forward if you do not look back to see how you reached where you are. So it's really important to me for a client to really look back, see what made them the way that they are, you know, whether it was their own experiences or, like I said, their family's experiences, and really understand, not judge, but understand. Understanding those relationships, you know, understanding your relationships with your parents, their relationships with their parents, your relationship with your grandparents, because it's all different. And even if you
Mm-hmm.
think about just that, a lot of us can attest that our relationships with our grandparents are quite different than our parents' relationships with their parents, right?
Yeah.
Like you would see a lot of parents being like, oh, but my mother would have never done that if it were me, right? So
Right.
parents tend to treat their grandkids differently than they would have their kids. And so
Yeah.
the experience is different, but you have to kind of understand why that is that way. and what makes our family unique. Because like I said, every family has its own culture. We could all be in
Mhm.
Trinidad, we could all be in Miami, we could all be from Argentina, but every single family in Argentina is going to be different because there
Yeah.
are unspoken norms, unspoken rules in our family that we operate in certain ways. And so, really understanding how your family operates and also kind of challenging that, right? So,
Mhm.
that's the transgenerational part. And then, after you learn all these things, comes the healing, right? How do we now heal some of these unhealthy patterns that have come up? How do we move and try to do something differently? If we've been doing the same thing and keep hitting our head on the wall, why are we still doing it, right? How
Mhm.
about we try something different, right? And so that's where the healing comes in. And I think the healing is probably the most difficult part because when you're cleaning out a wound, a physical wound, it hurts. No wound is going to feel good trying to clean it, but you have to clean it so that it will
Yeah.
heal. Otherwise, what? You'll get infection. And that's what a lot of families have, a lot of infections because we've never cleaned
Right.
anything, right? We
Yeah.
just kind of pretend it's not there. We slap a band-aid on top and we
Mhm.
keep it pushing. And so a lot of times we probably need some amputation because we've left things
Right.
so unhealthy. And so how do we now actually address things, actually heal, actually, go through the process of growth? And then we move to relationship. So we're healing, but I like to tell my clients that if you're going to work with me, I will give you a disclaimer that once you start this process, some people are going to push back. And so, because you are changing, the relationships around you are going to change. Now, can you change someone else? No, you can't. But because you are changing, the relationship has no other choice but to change. And not everybody's
Mhm.
going to like that because now you may be finding your voice. Now you may be putting boundaries. Now you, right? And so people
Yeah.
are not going to respond the same way because they can't access from you what they could have in the past. So
Correct.
it's all about knowing what kind of relationships you want to enter. Now that you're in this place, the kind of relationships you engage with, whether friendships or intimate relationships, they're going to be different than what you would have tolerated in the past. And so, are you prepared for that? And the last one I closed it off with is selfful. So being selfful, what is the concept? So this is a term that now is actually growing quite a bit. I heard it a few years ago and I've been using it ever
Yeah.
since. So much so that my private Instagram name is the Selfful Counselor.
Yes, we
Um,
realize.
but to be honest, I don't define it the same way most people do. So most people just basically say self-full means not full of self, but it means the act of pouring into your cup first before pouring into
Right.
others. But for me, selfful really means the ability to give of oneself without losing oneself. And I think that that's a huge distinction because a lot of us want to be in relationship, right? We want to be connected to others, but we can't seem to find that balance of not losing ourselves in the midst of it. And so we have this spectrum of self where on one hand we have selfish, the other hand we have selfless. And many people
Yeah.
think that if I'm selfless, then that's where I want to be, right? That everybody will like me. A lot of people pleasers tend
Yeah.
to be on this side. I'm clapping because I'm sure people can relate to the people
Yeah.
pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But the thing about that is you lose yourself in the midst of that because you start to forget what is your voice, what is your opinion, because you're trying to please everybody else. And so what is the middle of the road? The middle of the road is self-full, being able to give of oneself without losing oneself. And so I really wanted to bring this concept to life in the book, and really share it with people so people can understand that there is a third way to go. And so people can also realize that when you start saying, no, I'm putting boundaries, you're not now selfish. That's not what it is. You're learning to be self-full, and there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. And so we can kind of remove the guilt that comes up with now being able to find a voice and kind of speak up for yourself. Remove that
Yeah.
guilt, right? So it's more of a balance. So in the book, those four concepts are really there to show the process of what I go through with a client. We start from that caterpillar, go back transgenerationally, see what, your parents have experienced, what you have experienced, because it's not always about slavery, right? Our parents could have experienced certain things in just their lives. A lot of our parents experience things and they don't really talk about it. There are a lot of secrets in families. And the thing is, they think that they're doing us good by holding those secrets. They think that they're saving us, that they're helping us. But the truth is, they're only crippling us, because with those secrets, we then repeat the same things, because a truth
Correct.
that's not dealt with is only repeated. And so we start there, start with the family, start with before you see how you became who you are. Then we go to the healing process, your healing those wounds, and then we get to relationships, and we end with you being selfful.
I really, really, now that you've explained that concept of self-will, I really love it. Especially what you said about when you begin to change, your relationships change. And in the Caribbean, we have the thing, when people kind of start to better themselves, yeah, she feels she did, she gone again, so whatever. But really, it's just people kind of realizing, okay, this doesn't
Yeah.
work for me anymore. I need to kind of think about myself a little bit more. And
Mhm.
it really does change the dynamic of relationships. And I think people tend to kind of take things really personally sometimes
Yeah.
and not see it as somebody really trying to just better themselves and take care of
Mhm.
themselves and not just discard our relationship in that kind of way. So I really love that concept of selfful. Um Guys, if you have any guys, gals, folks, if you have any questions, please
Drop
feel
a
free to put it in the
question. We'd love to
chat.
hear.
Sure. I saw a lot of people kind of agreeing with, what was being said. And I think you're very right. Like we're experiencing things on a daily basis, but sometimes we just don't have the words to put into
Hmm.
it. And I think this book, guys, y'all, the book says everything. I am
Insight from
always
the
on
other
the
side of the
internet.
couch. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always on the internet. I searching through. I follow all those pages, about mental health and thing. And because sometimes I find that they put things into words that I may not be able to express myself. But y'all, it's straight out from the therapist here, right? And what I want to kind of do is just dive into like two or three of the quotes.
Hmm.
And it was hard for me to like pick because every time I turn the page, I was like, yeah, boy, I could well relate to this. Like, yeah, I understand this. I have experienced this. So I just want to dive into one, and this is from the section transgenerational trauma, right?
Okay.
And I mean, if it resonates with you, feel free to put it in the chat. This is kind of a general one. So it says, when you get lost and forget who you are, it is time to return home. Returning home does not mean physically going back to your childhood home. It means reflecting and working to heal the wounds of our youth. For it is in this healing that we rediscover our true selves. And it's what Daryl has been saying is really important. Like we cannot continue to just go about living
Mhm.
life day to day when we know we have things under the surface that needs to be addressed. I think one of the really important things for me about therapy was that yes, your friends are amazing to be sounding boards to vent when you need to vent, but they do not always guide you in the way that you need to be
Yeah.
guided. So during therapy is really important for that. As I said, I for the first few months I talked my throat off, but then it was really an understanding of what I was dealing with, of what I was presenting, and we were able to work towards solutions. So like you really have to kind of just make up your mind to take that step to get to that healing process, to go back and really discover what's been happening under the surface, right? Um, so you kind of touched on what that's like, of returning to the inner child, of
Yeah.
taking care and having this kind of conversation with yourself. Um, there's another passage that I really liked as well. And again, if you have any questions based on what I'm reading, if you're loving it, feel free, right? This is from the healing section. The one
Mhm.
place people run from the most is their minds. Your mind can trap you or liberate you, but it all depends on the environment that you create. So plant positive seeds of love, faith, and hope, and be careful to water them lest they wilt. And I think that even kind of ties into the concept of self-full.
Mhm.
Um, so Gabriel, just kind of, as I've read some of the quotes, if somebody is considering therapy, we talked about just, being ready to be vulnerable, being ready to be committed. What else kind of person um, Oh, I can read. I can read. Let me just cut pause a bit. Let me just
Yeah.
how do you treat with a person who uses their trauma to justify negative behaviors?
Mhm. Mhm. First, I think the best place to start is you recognizing that it's not about you, right? So Atiya did mention that a lot of times people take things personally. And at some point we have to recognize, okay, is it me that's triggering this person, or are they experiencing something? And if it's about them, don't make it about you, right? And so if they're using their trauma to justify negative behaviors, that's telling me that they're not doing the work, right? Because a lot of people have gone through a lot of traumatic experiences, and it's true, sometimes we get triggered, sometimes we lash out, but if it's a constant thing of them kind of either using it to play the victim, or they're using it to hurt someone else, then that's telling you that they're not really cleaning out that wound like we were talking about, and instead the wound is infected, right? Because
Mhm.
when you actually start doing the work, and this is why I think it's so important for people to recognize that they have to do the work, because we want to create beautiful connections, but when we are not healthy, we are then in turn going to hurt the people that we care about. The saying hurt people, it is real. If you do not know how to have a healthy relationship, if you are still hurting from a past relationship that you've had, or you have parental issues, all you're going to do is come together with someone else and hurt them. And so working to address your issues is not only going to help you, but it's also going to help the people around you. And so we have to kind of recognize that. So if this person is using their trauma to justify things, that's telling me, one, they don't really understand their trauma, and two, they're not in the place yet that they want to get out of it.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you need to take it personally, right? And that kind of goes back to the being self-full, right? No, I don't know your relationship to the person, but is this someone that you want to have all the time around you, right? Is this someone that you want to fully, because people can't save other people. We could jump in if someone's drowning and save them. But when it comes to our mind, you can't save someone else. They have to want to be saved. They have to become their own superhero. And so don't think that, okay, well, if I do this by this, then they will want to. No, sometimes a person just needs to reach a certain place. Sometimes we're not ready for the message. And that's true. You could be saying all the right things to that person to try and get them, to give them that push. But if they're not ready to receive that, they're not ready to receive that. And so all you can do is be, a positive influence, be a good support, let them know that, you are willing and there to be a support for them when they need it. But you also have to kind of have your boundaries and be self-full and speak your truth, and let them know that you won't take certain levels of disrespect if they are doing that as well. So there's a line there, right? How do we be there for others but not lose ourselves? I hope that answered the question.
I don't know about him, but it's a lot for me, you know? And I
Yeah.
think I just love how it keeps coming back to that concept of self-love and
Mhm.
boundaries without really doing harm to other people as well. So just jump back to my question. You know, we were talking about people needing to be ready to be vulnerable and committed, but like what are some other things that people should kind of prep themselves for when going into the therapeutic process?
So like I started with we spoke about being vulnerable, we spoke about being committed, but I think that you also have to kind of put aside any kind of preconceived notions on what therapy may be, right? Now, if you've had therapy in the past, you may have an idea, but even that you may have to lay aside, because I tell people that finding the therapist for you is like finding a good relationship, right? Every
Yeah.
therapist is different. And so you going to therapy once with one therapist and not liking the vibe doesn't mean that therapy isn't for you. It just means that therapist isn't for you, right? And so sometimes it may just take finding the right fit, because again we use different techniques. We see, like we were talking about the different perspectives, right? Everybody sees the perspective of a client differently, and it could also just be compatibility, right? Compatibility is
Yeah.
important not only in intimate relationships but also in the therapeutic relationship. Do we have a good vibe, right? Me and my clients, we all have a good vibe. We laugh together. I think therapy should be kind of fun. I mean, you're gonna cry too, but that's okay.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
right? But to me, it should be a comfortable place where you can kind of finally release that superhero cape that you wear all the time, take off that mask that you wear with everybody else. Your therapy session should be that one place where your true and authentic self can come out and can bloom. So I don't know,
Yeah.
did I answer the question?
Yeah, and you actually answered another question I had in terms of just like, how do you really know if a therapist works for you? Because for somebody like me who always kind of afraid to tell people no or like reject people, I'm like, suppose my therapist
Ah,
doesn't work out, how do I say goodbye? I need to go somewhere else. Like, how do you know like when a therapist, besides the vibes and thing, um, and for
mhm,
somebody who is not even sure what they know they're experiencing certain things, but they're not even
right.
really sure what it is. Know what type of therapist or counselor or social worker or whatever I need to go to. How do you kind of find that the ideal therapist for you?
So I love the fact that you just mentioned, kind of not knowing how to speak to a therapist.
Hmm.
One, we are human too. Okay, we are human. And so I
Yeah.
I tell my clients that basically I can't be teaching you to be assertive with others and expect you not to be assertive with me. Then
Hmm.
what's the point, right? So you have to be able to be confident in yourself enough to, and it's uncomfortable, right? Because you're now getting to know this person. And I know that, especially if you are someone that is, like you said, not comfortable with saying no, not comfortable vocalizing your wants and your needs, it may be uncomfortable to tell this therapist, you know what, this isn't working. But I think a good therapist would make you feel comfortable enough to do that. A good therapist would want you to have input because, again, this is your healing process. This is you that has to
Hmm.
go through this. And so we want that feedback. We want to know, okay, you know what, DJ, this thing that we used, this technique did not work. Can we try something differently? Right? We want that feedback because you're paying for it, right? This is your journey. We're just here as a guide through it. And so I would encourage anybody who's taking therapy or thinking of taking therapy to really take charge of those therapy sessions because it is for you. You can go there and just speak if you want, but really being vocal about the kind of therapy you want, I think, is also important. There are different types, like you said, but you have to kind of know what you need and what you want, right? Some people like you said, just going to a therapist and just talking, just venting. And sometimes you need that. But some people also like being challenged, right? They want to see themselves
Right.
grow and they like to learn things. So in my sessions, I definitely give my clients something, different tools to learn so that eventually they don't need me anymore because that's the whole point. I want to get
That's
fired.
the
That
goal. Yes.
says I did my job right, right? So definitely there are different type of therapists that would, actively give you tools, teach you things, give you language. Like you said, sometimes you're experiencing something, but you don't exactly have the vocabulary to explain or articulate what this thing is. That's what the therapist's job is for, to teach you and give you language, help you to identify what you're exactly experiencing, help to normalize it, show you that you're not alone in feeling these things, and kind of guide you through it. How do you find them? Like I said, sometimes it's you have to try more than one, right? Not at a time. You really should stick to one therapist at a time, people. Let's be good. No, but why is that, right? The reason is because if I am looking at you, I'm treating your problem from one perspective, and the other therapist you're going to later in the week is looking at it from a different perspective, that just leaves confusion, right? And so, one, you'll be paying twice, which why would you want to pay twice? And two, it's just confusing. So, you really want to find a therapist and stick to that one therapist. It's not ethical, even for us, to know that you're doing therapy with someone else and encourage it. Now, you can have a psychiatrist and a therapist, right? That's fine. So, a psychiatrist prescribes medication.
Right.
Have that and a therapist together, that's fine. But two therapists, that doesn't make sense. So how do you find them? If you can't afford it, right? Because we know that that's a thing, that mental health, unfortunately, is not at the place where it's affordable for all, which it should be. And so looking at whether it's governmental agencies that provide free mental health services, and even there, it doesn't matter that it's free, you still have a choice. So if you go for the first appointment and you don't click with the therapist, just ask, hey, can I see someone else? And it may feel uncomfortable, but it's in your right. It's in your right for that kind of care, that you get the best care. And so they'll let you know, okay, no problem. Once we have an available therapist, we'll switch you and you can try them. If you can't afford paying for one, definitely look on different directories. If you're in the States, Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls. If you're in the Caribbean, there is TTAP, which is the kind of counseling association in Trinidad and Tobago. But do some Google searches. Hey, we use Google University for everything else, right?
Correct.
But what I would advise is, before seeing a therapist, look them up, right? Go on their website, see exactly what they're addressing, see if it links or connects with you, and then take the plunge and do a free consult. So most therapists offer a free consultation where you can kind of meet with the therapist, most likely online now, or in person still, kind of meet with them one-on-one and kind of feel out each other. And so take advantage of this free, it may be 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. Take advantage of it because it's free, it's not burning your pocket, but it will also tell you, is this vibe going to be a good thing? Can I click with this person? Can I be myself with this person? Do I feel comfortable? Am I feeling judged? Right? Take advantage of that and really go in and then make a decision. Okay, yes, I want to sign up. I want to do this. So that's the biggest thing. Take as advantage of the free consultation.
All right. So we're nearing the end. So guys, if you have any questions in the chat, please drop it in the chat, not in the chat. Drop your questions in the chat here. But I do have a question, so you touched on the point of, we're not in a place where mental health intervention is affordable for everybody. So do you have any tips or, any strategies that people can use if they're unable to enter that therapeutic process, but they know that it have something that just wrong, they don't know how to kind of start to address it? Besides your lovely book, I recommend, don't ignore me.
The book, Insights from the Other Side of the Cup. I'm seeing Discover Z. I don't know who that is. Saying, oh no, I
messed it. You can watch
it. That's fine. You didn't miss anything. So okay. Again, my thing is about giving people things that are realistic, things that are attainable. I don't believe that having peace of mind should be unattainable. I think that everybody deserves that. In fact, I think if everybody had a peace of mind, we probably would be a completely different society, right? And so how do we really try to achieve some bit of that without engaging in therapy? Now, my thing is still go to therapy, right? Of course, I'll say that. I'm a therapist.
Of course.
Of course. But Lynn like, get the book, guys.
Here it is.
But not, like we said, realistically, not everybody could afford therapy when they need it. Sometimes we probably have to save up for it. So it's going to take a while to get there. So what can we do in the meantime? I will say practice being present. Now, what in the world does that mean?
Yes.
We are so distracted by 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever it is. Always going, always doing, always, right? It's like a hamster on a wheel. The days blur because we're never stopping. And I know there's somebody in this chat that's gonna laugh at me for saying this, but it's fine. Um, the point is, we have to learn to slow down. And I'm preaching to myself. I'm talking to myself right now as I say this, right?
Yeah.
We are always doing and we're never being. And so we have to learn to simply be. And when we stop, when we turn off all the noise, all the different voices, you know, whether it be your parents' voices, whether it be your siblings' voices, your older sibling, you know, whether it be your friends' voices, it doesn't matter what it is. When we shut that off, when we finally are able to sit with ourselves, not thinking about the past regrets, not thinking about future, you know, uncertainties. And that's what usually happens, right? How we're split. It's like our mind is always split constantly. We're split between the past and we're split between what hasn't even happened as yet. And so we're never present. And so, of course, we're overthinking. Of course, we're nervous because our mind is literally split. And so, how can I, like I say, just sit, just be present? And I'm literally just encouraging people to start with as little as, if you need a minute a day, and work your way up to 5 minutes a day, then work your way up to 10 minutes a day, right? And just literally, I'm seeing a question on where to get the book, and we'll definitely tell you a little later. But just sit with yourself. Remember that you read out the quote that I talked about, the mind being one of the scariest places for people to be, and they're always running from it. And once you are able to nurture your mind and really have it become a place where it's not a place that you're no longer running from, but it's actually a place that you're running to because you love being in that space, that is when you can start to get peace. Don't expect peace to come externally. Peace always starts internally. And so, like I said, start with 1 minute. Just switch everything off. Throw out the phone. Throw out the this. Close your door.
Right.
1 minute a day. Work your way up to 2, right? And at first, it's going to be uncomfortable. At first, you're not going to be able to shut off your mind because it's going to talk all. Your brain can't shut up. But
Yes.
trust me, it's going to be worth it. Just sit, right? Ground yourself. Use grounding techniques. There are a bunch online, but I'll tell you, you know, use the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can taste, 1 thing, you know, you can touch, right? And if they're not there with you, imagine the things that you would want to taste, touch, smell, feel, right? Imagine your favorite food. I'm a foodie, I'm sorry, right? Imagine eating fries, right? Imagine and ground yourself, calm yourself down, bring yourself down to present and bring yourself together because your brain is split past, future, you need to be present. And so those grounding techniques will bring you here and then get back at it. But we need to learn to be. We're doing too much. I hope that
Yeah.
helps.
Someone said slowing down or silence is uncomfortable sometimes.
It
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
And
Just
why
in
is
this
that?
part.
Think about it. Why is it silence so uncomfortable? Because we don't like to stay between here. It's comfortable, right? And so learning to make that silence not become looming, but rather inviting, making your thought patterns more positive, more healthy. Recognizing that maybe sometimes we don't like ourselves as much as we pretend to, and that maybe why we have some negative self-talk, right? And kind of relearning new patterns of, okay, talking to yourself in a better way, right? All of that is going to make your mind a healthier place to be.
Yeah, that last point. I recently was in a sort of a group session, and one of the recommendations, one of the challenges was to have a love bath, and it's or a love shower. And it's while you're showering, you're telling yourself nice things. Let me tell you, that was the most awkward thing ever, right? But you do it, and okay, so you start in one little thing, and as you know, every shower or whatever, it
Yeah.
gets a little easier.
That's
So
easy.
I definitely agree that, you know, the silence is tough at the start,
Mm-hmm.
But as Gabriel said, you start very small. It's the same thing people tell you with meditation and yoga. Don't go and be
Mm-hmm.
trying to do the 30 minutes yoga and you just
And then
frustrating
being like,
yourself.
oh my gosh, throw this white people thing out, right? Because that is again what we see as
Yeah,
Caribbean people. We're like, oh, meditation, yoga, that's not for us, right? That's against the culture. Um, Actually, African culture, we used to meditate in a different way, but we used to
mm,
meditate, right? Most cultures meditate in some sort of form, right? Even the
yeah,
Christian culture, prayer, right? If you believe in the Bible, it does talk about meditate on His word each day. So it's not meditation that is bad, right? Maybe whatever chants that you put in there, right? That is where the religion part of it could come in. But the act
yeah.
of just sitting, just being still, that practice, that is what meditation truly is. And there's nothing wrong with it. That is what we need. We need more of that, being still.
Agreed. Agreed. But so give it a try. And you all got some tips that 5 4 3 2 1. I've seen it in action. Not me personally, but I've seen it work for people. So definitely there are things you can try
Mm-hmm.
just on a day-to-day
Journal.
basis if you don't have that.
Journal. I think
Yep.
pen and paper is like the cheapest way to get therapy, or at least to perform therapy on yourself, because it really shows you what's in your mind and it brings it out, right? It's
Yeah.
a healthy way to vent. And so just starting by journaling what's been going on in your day, what happened that may have triggered you, and then kind of asking yourself, why did that even get me upset? Right? And kind of
Mm,
processing it. It's the stopping and processing. That is the act of therapy. That's the therapeutic intervention there, right? The stopping and processing. We let life happen to us way too often. Something happens and we just move on. Stop, slow down, process it, think about it, feel it. Oh, we don't like to feel. No, move on so quick. We don't want to feel. Feel it. What are you afraid of? Feel it.
yeah.
The good, the not so good, feel it, experience it, and then move on. So journaling is a beautiful way to really start as well. Get a pen, get a paper, and just start writing whatever comes to mind and see where it goes.
You see, we want to buy fancy books to journal and then we don't want to use the book.
Then
No,
we don't
that's
use
that's the problem.
it.
That's the problem. So Discover Zay says, I usually do the shower thing, but I think about the great things happening. And I do a little shower dance. I'll notice it the first time I really celebrate myself and check in. Yeah. Because as you said, you're in a constant hamster wheel. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we're
Yep.
in
Yep.
a rat race constantly, and we need
You have
to
to find what works for you.
what
Yeah.
happens when you're stuck
And he has a
in
question. What happens when you're stuck in that feeling
Mhm.
when you allow yourself to feel?
Right. So I describe this to my clients like you're driving on a road, and every now and then, especially if you're in the Caribbean, you're gonna see a pothole coming. Right? You're gonna see a pothole approaching. Let's pretend this was the ideal world where they actually had signs before a pothole, right? They should really have signs, but they don't. Not in Caribbean. Um, so you see the sign, pothole approaching, pothole approaching. But let's say you ignored the signs and you fell in the pothole. Most times that pothole is not a pothole. It's actually a black hole. So it's bigger and deeper and wider than you thought it was going to be. And when you fall in, it's quite difficult to get back out. Now, what is this an example of? This is an analogy of red flags that are telling you you're not okay, you're not okay, you're not okay, and you're bypassing it, and you're seeing, I'm going to crash this now, but you're ignoring those red flags, and then you fall in, but you fall in deeper than you thought you would have, right? Now, sometimes I tell my clients, sometimes you just got to sit in it.
Yeah.
You've hit rock bottom, you just got to sit there. Sometimes, right? Just sit there, collect yourself, right? Feel what you have to feel, cry if you need to, yell if you need to, just get it out, purge it out, just sit there for a while, and then strategize. How am I going to get out of this hole? Now, you may have different things that get you out. Therapy may be one, journaling may be one, exercising may be one, right? Taking a self-care day may be one, or there may be all of it, right? Creativity is also one that gets really not treated with respect, right? Getting back, doing something creative, making something with your hands, coloring, painting, drawing, it doesn't matter. Doing something creative also helps. All of those are strategies to get out of that hole. Now, does that mean there won't be another hole? No. You're on the road, you're driving, but we have to be careful when we see the red flags because we all have triggers, but we ignore them. So being mindful when you see the red flags and knowing that even if I do fall in that hole again, I got out before. So
Yeah.
I know how to get out. And sometimes the first time is the most difficult time. And then you recognize that the more you do it, the more you get out, the faster you're getting out because you know how to get out.
Yeah.
And now you get so empowered. You know what? You start swerving because I ain't gonna fall in that hole again. I know that ain't no pothole. I know that's a black hole, right? So you start swerving, you
Mm-hmm.
start moving the car because you recognize you do have the power. You can move, you can alter the way you're thinking, but you have to look at the red flags.
That is powerful. That is definitely powerful. And I love what you said about, just knowing that you were able to overcome it before. Just
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that in yourself, I think is super, super important. As you said, when you meet those trials and tribulations, you're able to kind of just overcome them. Sometimes you don't even let them bother you. It's just like, all right, whoop, we got this. As you said, we swerving, we fast furious out. Yeah, I love that. Lynn said, yes, I use journaling and it helps me make sense of what is happening for sure. Because sometimes we just have like a lot of things in our head, and we just need to get it out. And I think you're right, journaling, writing that down, it offers its own sort of peace to
Mm-hmm.
just get everything down and look at it. As you say, you could throw it out, you could throw it away, you could rip it up. Some people will burn it, whatever. But it's really just to get it out onto something outside of your head. Because it could be a very frustrating place to be if you feel like you don't have control. So definitely. I want to ask, okay, so I see comments here. And you got scars from the hole, yes. We are so used to getting over it, but going through it is truly the way we gain the different skills to maneuver around these potholes. Yep,
Yep.
yep. I think we have a kind of a culture of just like, yeah, this don't bother me. I don't care. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
on to
But
the
you
next
care.
kind of
You really
vibe. Yeah.
care, but you're saying you don't care.
Yeah, no,
Right?
no, we just harming ourselves, guys. So I want to ask Gabriel, I mean, this is your book, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
there a particular passage in here that really, that resonates with you? Is there anything that really stands out to you? Or did you have a problem like me where you just couldn't decide?
You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you write the book,
um, wow. Okay. I think I know which one, and I'm gonna read it. But in the meantime, I think that I want to tell people where they can find the book because I saw some comments, and I don't know if people have the
yeah,
time to stay through the whole live. So the book is available on Amazon. Insights through from the other side of the couch. So insights from the other side of the couch, or you can go to my Instagram page, evolving, EVOLVIN_U, the letter U. And you can find the link there where all the different links on where you can find the book. It's on Barnes and Nobles, it's on Amazon, Amazon UK, it's on Indigo for Canada. It's all over the place. So you can also go there, or if you don't want to go to the Instagram, you could simply type in Linktree, so link LINK tr.ee/ the Selfull counselor. That's where you'll find all of the different links. We'll be sure to, post the link probably in this chat as well. I'm not sure if you
we'll
can do
figure
that
that out.
while I'm looking for this
Yeah.
one.
No, but guys, while she's looking, I just want to say, like, I'm not even gassing nobody up. The book, really and truly, it's just lines for you to read. And if you love the journaling thing, it's really amazing for you to,
I
yeah. So
found
everyone check under your seat. No, it's not Oprah here, it's here. But really, if you can get your hands, I think the book is really affordable online, and I think it's an
it.
investment. You can always go back to it and just have those levels of introspection.
Yeah.
So
Were
take
you
it
able
out.
to put the link? Yeah.
No, no.
Okay, so I'm gonna type it in the comments as well, but you'll also see it if you click on my page. You could also see it there. But I'm gonna first read the. It's so short. It's you're not even gonna. You'll be surprised I picked this one. But I think this one stands out to me the most. It in transgenerational trauma, of course.
Yes.
And it says, "I face my demons head on, so that they do not face my children."
So tell us about that. Just read it one more time so that it
Yeah.
sticks. I'm sure you knew
So
that was coming, right?
no, I didn't. So that's why I had to look for it because I really didn't expect you to. Oh gosh, I'm trying to type in the comments at the same time. I
I'm
didn't.
also trying to type.
I didn't expect you to ask me, so I really had to now look for it. Um, so I'm actually surprised that you asked me that because I knew you were choosing the ones that you liked, but I didn't expect you to ask me which one I liked. So I'm gonna read it again.
Yeah.
I face my demons head on so that they do not face my children. The reason that this one is so important to me is because it really gives me the motivation to do my own work, right? And I think that a lot of times we can always find motivation not to do things for ourselves, but to do things for others. And I think a lot of people are motivated by creating a healthier generation after them. A lot of people come into my sessions and they're like, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my mom, right? They made all these mistakes with me, yada, 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 yada. And so, because they don't want to be like that past generation, they're motivated to do better for their children who aren't even existing yet, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, I think that is really important for us to recognize that, we really do have the power of breaking these generational patterns, but we have to do the work if we want to change things that have been happening for however long. We have to do the work and sit with it and go through it, do the grind. Because definitely, I'm trying not to go down this route because I know this is going to start a whole different conversation, but I'm going to say it anyway because, of course, I will. If you are coming together with someone else, they're also bringing their traumas. And so you want to
Yep.
know that you're both doing the work, that you're both, right? Because you're literally mixing a cocktail of traumas. That's a kid,
Wow,
right?
you make them sound so depressing.
It sounds
Okay.
depressing,
Okay.
right? But here's the thing. We don't just pass trauma, we also pass resiliency. That is strength.
Mhm.
But we have to do the work to get there. So if you don't want to pass traumas, then pass resilience. But how do you do that? You do the work. You work at it. You push through even when things aren't hard. You face those demons so that your future children don't have to face them. Because like I said, trauma that's not resolved will be repeated. And it may not be by you. It may not even be by your kids. It may be the next generation. So face them head on, and you guys go out there and might create a better generation than what you have right now. So insight from the other side of the couch. I'm typing in. I still haven't typed in.
Get the book. Yo, get the book. And I think Gabriel has really put us as the perfect place for us to kind of close off now. Do the work, y'all. Be
Mhm.
resilient.
I
When you
just
think about the relationship that you're forming, just think about all the things that come with that other person for sure, But most
yeah.
importantly, do the work for you. And if not for you, do the work for your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
Gabriel,
Hmm.
I think we've had a really full conversation.
We
So
did.
full, we on the couch, we're on my kitchen, on the
And I have
dining room chair.
my chair, my
But
uncomfortable chair.
closing thoughts, any
Yeah.
message that you want to leave. And I'm my last call. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat.
Mhm.
I know some of you joined us really late. I don't like there's a late crowd, but
Yeah, boy.
we
I'm sure they're all
we
trainees that joined late. I'm pretty sure, coming late to the party.
yeah.
Last thought. I think my last thought really is just do this for you. I think there are a lot of people that are living for others all the time, and that gets very exhausting, where you're constantly pouring into someone else, you're constantly giving. whether it's in friendship, whether it's in family, household, right? Whether it's in a romantic relationship, where you're just always investing in somebody, always giving. And sometimes there isn't even much gratitude that comes
Mhm.
back for all of your giving. And so I really implore people to, if you are going to either start the therapeutic journey or just start working on yourself, really, really, really do it for you. This is how you invest in you. This is how you grow you. This is how you become a better version of yourself. And so, really do this for yourself. Really do it to grow and see your full potential. I think a lot of us are also afraid of what we can become, right? And so, dive in it. Do it for you. Finally, give yourself a gift and invest in yourself.
Fantastic. So consider this your pre-consult. You know the girl's vibe. If you're looking for a therapist, she's it.
Hit me
You
up.
can follow her page, Evolving You. On her Linktree tab, you will see how to
Mhm.
access her via her website, whatnot. Again, you will also see the link to the book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, as discovered. They said everywhere except under your chair because it's not Oprah. But guys, gals, everybody, please.
Yeah.
This is an
And I'll be
investment and
bringing,
it's not
yeah,
expensive.
definitely, I'll be bringing down some copies to Trinidad as well if you want to order directly from me. In that link that has all the places, if you want it directly from me. If you're in Trinidad or Grenada, feel free to sign up on that link and we'll let you know when it has arrived in the country. Um, Pre-consult, that was a session. For real, it was a whole
You're welcome. You're
but
welcome.
definitely, like Lynn said, even if you feel like the book isn't for you, I'm sure you know somebody that can benefit from just helping themselves. I saw someone that asked about, what if this person has trauma and they're using it, right, as a tool to hurt other people, basically. Give them the book, right? Use it, and you could start some great conversations with your parents, right? Maybe there were some things that were never said. Use it for them
Mhm.
and let them read it, start a discussion. Definitely, there's so many ways to use the book, and like you said, give it as a gift. I think giving healing as a gift is the best gift you could ever give.
Definitely. Could not have said any better. Thank you very much, Gabriel. We learned some terms today. We learned about transgenerational trauma. We learned about the inner child. We learned about, one of the responses to trauma is the befriending, and we talked about that whole cycle. So
Mhm.
I agree with Dimensionies. So I think, yeah, that's my cousin, right? I agree that, this was almost like a very nice session. This is kind of what therapy is like. You all do not be afraid. Do not be
Yeah.
afraid to invest in your mental health. It's probably the only thing that you really have that's yours, that's solely yours.
Mhm.
Don't think about how people might react when you start putting up those boundaries, when you start taking care of yourself. That term, self-full. If you take nothing else away from this conversation tonight,
Helpful.
self-full and what it means, y'all. Thank you very much for joining us. Gabrielle, of course, please follow her page. She's always posting and she's doing she has these conversations on different platforms in different spaces. So definitely this will not be the last one. So feel free to follow her so that you can keep up with her activities as she continues to promote her work, but also promote the book. Because again, I'm not even joking. The book is an investment, y'all. It's not hard. I keep opening it. Like it's so get it. Just get it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, y'all. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.